Welcome to Real Estate 360, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, will provide you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. Now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate 360 team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. We are live from the Toll House Hotel, as we are every first Tuesday of the month here in Los Gatos. There's still time to come down and join us. If you want to come down, it's the Toll House Hotel in Los Gatos. We're doing a radio show live here from 3 to 4. As we do the first Tuesday of each month, and then roll into our industry mixer. Come down and visit us. Also, remember, we are with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 3 to 4, with some bonus time on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We're with you from 2 to 4. A couple different ways you can listen to Real Estate 360. One is on your radio, KDOW 1220 AM on your dial, or you can listen to us live online at kdow.biz. That is kdow.biz. We also a live show. We love your calls and questions. And we're lucky enough today to have a live audience here in front of us. So if you have any questions, come join up here and ask the questions as well. The live number to get a hold of us is always the same, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. For those who have been following us or just joining Real Estate 360, we started about 2.5 years ago with the focus. The objective is education and information. So we work really hard to have great guests like we have today and sponsors here at our show, and also content to help you, the consumer, make wise financial decisions. How do we do that? We want to educate you with this information, provide that information for you, whether you're buying a home, selling a home, financing a home, building a home, all kinds of aspects, anything and everything real estate. Real Estate 360. All right, I'm going to introduce my guests and our sponsors today. It's Mike Ambrosio, who is a co-host of Real Estate 360. Mike,
that's right.
Doing?
I'm good.
And Scott Poncetta. How you doing, Scott?
Good. Thanks for having me back.
Good to have you guys back. It's always good. We got a lot of good information today. And Mike and Scott are also the sponsors of the mixer today. So if you do have some time and you're listening to it, come on down and join us. We have some great topics. We're going to cover some real estate topics, but then also we're going to get into some income property strategies, what we're going to talk about today. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's get started, talk a little bit about the market before we get into the meat and potatoes that we're going to talk about today. So kind of an overview of the market here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to increase a little bit inventory-wise. We're still relatively very low. We're about 1,050 units total, which is single-family condos, townhouses. Mm-hmm. So, you know, everyone, I know on the show, at least on my show on Mondays, they keep hearing low inventory, low inventory. It's still the same story, but we're kind of creeping out of that time now where it should start increasing more by more, you know, week by week. So that's basically what's going on, you know, in pretty much all of Santa Clara County right now.
Are you seeing a little more inventory? I mean, is it a little bit more, or is it getting better, or is it still?
It's creeping up as it does this time of year, but it's still historically really, really low, which translates to a lot of multiple offers, very competitive on the buyer side, a good time to consider selling your home.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get more and more into that. So when I think other people in the United States or even different areas of California hear us talk about this, multiple offers, they shake their head and go, what's going on? But, I mean, this is a unique market, obviously a lot different.
Yeah.
What are some of the areas specific to the Bay Area that are hit hardest with this low inventory? Are there some that really stick out like a sore thumb and others that aren't as bad?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we were talking earlier, I think off air, about different zip codes, but I would say it's more about which markets are really affected by the low inventory, and that being markets with really good schools and markets that are close to the jobs like Apple, Google. So those cities being Mountain View, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, Palo Alto, those are the areas where you're seeing a lot of craziness going on. You're seeing, you know, 50, 60 offers, properties going $100,000, $200,000 over list price. I would say in other areas in Santa Clara County, you know, like Willow Glen where we live, or other parts of San Jose, it's funny because what I'm going to say is, they only are getting a couple of offers, right? But at the end of the day, that's still really good, but it's not as crazy maybe as some other areas that are more affected by the low inventory.
Yeah, absolutely. So that being said, on the low inventory, even more important, right, for the buyers, serious buyers. Let's talk about that. What should they be doing right now, the serious buyers? Because this is a lot different market than a normal market. And it's amazing how many people still get caught up and they're wandering around. We deal with it all the time, right? People, well, I think I'll get approved, but maybe not. And do I really need to do it now? So what's your advice for serious buyers?
Well, I think Scott and I were talking about this before the show. I think the value of an agent comes into play even more so than ever. And I'm going to be careful with what I say here because I don't want to give away all my trade secrets. But there's a couple of tips I guess I could give buyers out there that are working with someone.
Give us a little bit, just some.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I won't throw away
not
the
all
bank,
your secrets. Just give us some.
So as you know, the most important thing is getting the approval fully approved, getting all your paperwork in. I know it's a pain. Get it all done. Make sure you're solid, ready to go. You have a good lender like yourself and someone that's willing to do the extra work with both agents and making sure the transaction goes smoothly. The other thing is, a lot of things, and one of the biggest assets I've gotten by coming to Intero is gaining the relationships I have with other realtors in the industry. It's because I had my own company before and I didn't get that. So having an agent that's pretty well connected and knows a lot of other agents in the area is really important. It's not always just about the deal and the price. It's
right.
It's a lot of times about relationships.
Yeah.
So that's really important too. And then, just asking the right questions, positioning yourself with the right price, not overpaying, and, a couple of other different things. But those are some good points to get you started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in addition to that, like Mike had said, the value of a good agent in this market on the buying side is absolutely critical. And one of the things that I find that helps me win in certain situations is really, really buddying up to that listing agent, not just buddying up to them, but really pelting them with every possible question you could and trying to get more information out of them than the next guy, because every little bit of information can really help you in that last minute when you're really making a decision as to how to represent your client.
Right.
One of the other things I know a lot of you guys do, and I do on a regular basis, I offer it all the time, is to call the listing agent, right? I mean, if you put an offer, if there's 15 or 16 offers there, I know you guys exercise that as well. Have the lender you're working with or who's representing to call that listing agent. Oftentimes that could make the difference. Sometimes if it's all things being equal, correct?
I think it's a huge value add. And myself as a listing agent, when I get that call from a lender, I think it adds a big value to whoever's making that offer for sure. So, and even another value you can add too is if you're working with an agent, maybe they don't know the listing agent, but someone else in their office does, they can call that listing agent on behalf of the other person and say, hey, this guy's really good. He'll get the deal done. So little things like that are really important to making sure the deal is going to close, because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. That's the most important to the seller, and that's the most important to the listing agent, because that's how they're going to get paid too. But that's the most important thing is, are you going to close the transaction?
Right.
Yeah, and to that point, when I'm on the listing side, it's really important for me to work with a professional agent on the other side, because my goal for my client is to get this deal done, to get them the most money, of course, and the best terms, but it's to get it done. And if I'm working with an agent on the other side of the table that really has a strong track record, works with a good brokerage, then I'm a lot more apt to suggest that particular client to my client or that particular buyer.
That's a good question, Scott. What brings up, I'll just ask quickly, how important is the company that represents you working for? I mean, you mentioned when you worked on your own, or maybe when you work with smaller. Is there a difference, or is it purely the real estate agent and their skill set, or is there something to the back end support of a company? Do you see a difference?
My opinion on that is that it really, obviously, it comes down to the individual, but there's a truism that kind of runs through the industry that when you're with one of the bigger firms, you probably are a little more professional, you're probably a little bit better educated and have been trained a little bit better, and you are expected to have a different level of professionalism. And I'm not saying that the smaller shops don't have that. I'm just saying that by and large, I expect that and generally get that from some of the bigger brokerages.
Yeah, good point. If you're just tuning in right now, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. We come to you every single day, Monday through Friday. Today we're at the Toll House Hotel in Los Gatos, and we're here with Mike D'Ambrosio and Scott Poncetta with Intero Real Estate Services. They're gracious enough to be our sponsor today. And Mike is also a co-host on Real Estate 360s on Mondays from 3 to 4. Be sure to tune in. If you have any questions for the experts here, give us a call, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. So let's talk a little bit about, you guys, we're going to have to take a break here in just a minute or so. Next, we're going to get into the real part of the show we want to discuss, and that's under-leveraged assets. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Investment property. You guys, you want to talk briefly before we move into the next segment about the investment property strategy and the group that you have?
Yeah, sure. Mike and I both work with the income property group at Intero. We both do residential. What was that?
It was Kevin.
It's your wife calling you for dinner.
Yeah, we both do residential sales also, but we also really enjoy and do a lot of our business in multi-unit residential.
Okay.
So we have formed an income property group that really works with investor clients, and that's kind of where we're going to be going with this next segment, is talking more about that. But we're certainly open to any calls on any subject related to the real estate industry.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into this, because the income property and leveraging assets, and we're going to get into that is something that is uniquely different. And I think you've made the point before, Scott. We'll talk about it more on the other side. So I'm going to let the callers know, or anybody in the audience, when we come back from the next segment, we're going to be talking specifically about the income property, some of the things you could do by leveraging it. There's a lot that most people don't understand about income property in many different ways. So we get quite a bit of calls and emails actually at this show specifically about income property. So if you have any questions about that, give us a call, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. So we have a little less than 2 minutes. 1031 exchange, we're going to cover that too.
Yeah.
You guys?
So when we talk about, as long as we're going to get into this, when we talk about under-leveraged assets, what Mike and I are really talking about is people that that own some kind of rental property. And there's so many people in the Bay Area that own rental property, whether it be single-family homes or townhomes, that they've been potentially sitting on for a long period of time. And there's an opportunity right now, particularly with it being such a seller's market, to sell that property and move it into a multi-unit property. And in doing so, it gives you a number of income streams off of one piece of property rather than one. And so that's by and large what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information here. So, again, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. We're live from the Toll House Hotel. If you would like to come down, you still have some time. We're going to be here from 3 to 4 doing the radio show live, but then from 4 to 6, we'll roll into the mixer. Come down, join us for some wine tasting appetizers. I'm here joined with Mike D'Ambrosio and Scott Poncetta with Intero Real Estate Services. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. When we come back, we're going to have much, much more for you. If you want to get your calls on the air, it's 1-800-516-1220. 1-800-516-1220. We'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you again for joining us today. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. We come to you every single day, Monday through Friday, from 3 to 4 with some bonus time on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We're with you from 2 to 4. Be sure to tune in. You can listen to us a couple different ways. One is on your radio, KDOW 1220 AM, on your dial. Also, you can listen to us live online at KDOW.biz. That's KDOW.biz. We are a live show. We love your calls and your questions. So if you have any questions today for the experts, give us a call, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. We happen to be down at the Toll House Hotel here today, as we are usually the first Tuesday of each month. If you want more information about the mixers that we have here at the Toll House, we're going to be expanding them in the different cities. Go to our website at RE360radio.com. That's RE360 Radio.com. We have Mike D'Ambrosio and Scott Pancetta here with Intero Real Estate Services. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So we're going to be talking about investment property, under-leveraged assets. So let's jump right back, Scott. I know you started on the last segment. Let's discuss a little more about the details of leveraging property into better returns. Let's get more specific about that. Or you want to start, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I could start a little bit with, when we were talking about inventory levels before, and I think the reason Scott and I help out a lot of people that are investors that own these types of properties because, 5 years ago, this is more relevant today than it was even before. I mean, investment property has always been relevant, but as far as the values of, let's say, you own an investment condo or townhouse, 5 years ago, that was going to be really hard to unload, for a good price, right? So now today, let's say you have a townhouse in Mountain View, okay, that's probably worth $900,000 or $1 million, right? That is a good chunk of money to reinvest into something else with multiple revenue streams as opposed to just one. So, that's really what we're talking about here. If you have a single family, you have a townhouse, you have a condo, this is the time to get the most out of that asset and move it into something else.
That's right. And, when we talk specifically about under leverage, and, what Mike's talking about is exactly the definition of that, is if you've had something for a long period of time and you've paid it off, now's the time to take that equity that you have in that property and leverage it into something bigger and something better. And we're going to get into specifics and some numbers on leveraging just in a little bit, but I mean, it's remarkable how much that works for you. And these people that are sitting on these kinds of products, it's been products, meaning houses or townhomes, they are, a lot of people just get very complacent, and you might have a townhome, let's call it Santa Clara, and it's getting you $2,200 a month, 3-bedroom townhome. That's pretty normal. Well, if that property is worth $500,000 or $600,000 and you leveraged that into a $1.8 million piece of property with 10 units on it, that $2,200 probably becomes $12,000 a month. Right. Okay. And people, they either become lazy or complacent, or they just don't know that those kind of opportunities are out there. And lazy, complacent is horrible, but they become very used to not having to do much, and that's one of the downsides into doing this. There are a lot of great financial reasons to make this happen.
Sure.
But there are a couple of downsides, and Mike and I want to address those as well. There's been very few people that have come to me that say, I have this asset, how can I make it work for me? And almost always I can make it work for them in a positive way financially. But some of these people, you are also likely taking on a bigger management burden.
That's a good point, right?
And the other thing that Mike and I get a lot is that it's a tax basis issue.
Right.
So if you've had something for a long time, of course your basis is going to go up, but people think that basis is going to be an obstruction to them making more money, and it's not. So.
Definitely. I think with the we get that all the time is, oh, well, my taxes are low. And I get that. If you bought it 20 years ago, your taxes are low. But at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of these assets we're talking about, they may have only bought them 5-10 years ago. And if that's the case, their taxes aren't going to be that much lower. And if it is the case that you've owned the property for a long time, frankly, when you buy that new property, you're most likely going to be making a lot more money to cover that difference anyway. So it's kind of like a get over it factor in some sense. Like, you're going to be leveraging this asset into something different. They are going to be paying higher taxes, but at the end of the day, there's going to be multiple revenue streams to take care of that difference anyways. So
yeah, and we come back and we'll also talk about it. I mean, isn't that just really about education too? And we do that here on the show. We focus on it.
Absolutely.
So this is mostly about, I think, people, you said it, Scott, about education. So we're going to have to take another quick break. When we come back, it's Real Estate 360. Joe Kuchera alongside Mike D'Ambrosio and Scott Pancetta with Intero Real Estate Services. Check in, give us a call. We'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. We come to you every single day, Monday through Friday from 3 to 4. We have some bonus time for you on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We are broadcasting from 2 to 4. You can listen to us a couple different ways, KDOW 1220 AM on your dial or KDOW.biz online. We are a live show, and we're live from the Toll House Hotel today. So if you'd like to give us a call, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. I'm alongside here Mike D'Ambrosio, who's a co-host with Real Estate 360 on Mondays, and Scott Poncetta, both with Interior Real Estate Services.
This is nice. I don't have to do any of the work right now.
This is great, huh?
You're doing all the work. I just
I'm doing
sit
all
back.
the heavy lifting here. God, we're going to pull Scott in here, put the pressure on him.
Somebody's got to work.
The income expert here, the real estate income expert. So why don't you give us, we have a short segment here. Why don't you give us an example, Scott?
So I have some good examples. We just had a client that had a duplex in Mountain View, white hot market, sold it for almost 200 over asking, and he rolled that property into a 6-unit building in Santa Clara. I mean, just a really good example. It's not a townhome into a fourplex, but it's a 2-unit into a 6-plex. And his revenue went off of that from $5,000 a month to $11,000 a month, and it was almost a straight trade. Right. He sold one for 1.18 and bought the next one for 1.2.
Right.
And so I mean that was just an amazing. He got kind of lucky, to be honest with you. But
if you're watching the market, right, and you align yourself with experts like you guys, and you keep an eye on things, and you're educated, and you have someone looking out for what's going on, and you look at your options. That's why this education information to me is so important, specifically as we deal with real estate, because I still think to this day, I mean, let's face it, most of us have busy lives with families and whatnot. We're working full time and then some, especially in Silicon Valley where you have double income earners mostly. Right. Well, in a lot of cases, let's face it, a lot of people think about, man, I really should invest or move up or do something, but they just like, okay, I'm too tired. I don't even.
There's a
so
lot
we need
of that.
to provide them the platform and information where call. And so that was a perfect example. Do you have another one?
I got a couple more really good ones. Actually, we found a guy in downtown Palo Alto that's sitting on a 2-bedroom place. This is kind of crazy, but he's sitting on a 2-bedroom place. He's owned it for years and years and years. It's worth $1.7 million, and it's paid off. And that's an amazing market. But he's getting $5,000 a month. Yeah. Do you know what he could do? Or I could tell you what he could do.
Why don't you tell us, Scott?
Interested.
If he took, let's say, 1.5 million of that and leveraged that into something worth $3 million, still he's only at a 50% LTV. It's very safe money, but he could triple his income. Off that property. And what we showed him over 10 years, he would make an extra $1 million by making this one change right now. So, I mean, that's another example of somebody that gets very comfortable, but that person, and one of his objections was the management issue. He said, this is so easy for me to manage. I have a great little family in here. They've been here for 3 years. They never call me. And if you put him in a 12-unit building, that's 12 toilets maybe now, or 20 toilets, that he's going to get a lot more calls. Yeah. And that is the downside of it, but the numbers just show that it's a no-brainer for this guy to do that. Now, that property in Palo Alto perhaps will rise and appreciate at a greater clip, but we accounted for that in our numbers. So, and then the third example, I know we're probably coming up against it, but let's get to the third example in the next one. But those are just really good things that we've worked with in the last couple of months that have just been really eye-opening. Just like, here's what you can do, and here's what that'll mean to your bottom line. Now, I respect your decision not to do it if that's what you choose, but at least let's look at the options and the possibilities out there. And since we, the timing is a really interesting thing right now. A couple things we probably should address are 1031s.
Yeah, let's just do
the
that when we
timing.
come back. We're going to have to take a quick break. But before I want to hold you, because I want to talk more about 1031s, because that's a really interesting component to this, and people need to know about it as well. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. We're live from the Toll House Hotel. We have Mike D'Ambrosio and Scott Poncetta with us with Antero Real Estate Services. We are live from the Toll House Hotel. Come down and see us or give us a call, 1-800-516-1220. I'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. I'm joined here by Scott Poncetta and Mike D'Ambrosio. We're at the Toll House Hotel, as we are every first Tuesday of the month. Come down and join us or give us a call, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. This show focuses, our objectives is education and information. We work really hard with great guests like today and content on our website and information to help you, the consumer, make wise financial decisions. And that's what Scott and Mike are doing today, helping you make wise financial decisions, right?
Absolutely.
So
Did Kevin cue the Italian music for this show?
Kevin, you got some Italian music there?
He should have. There we go. That's got to be played when the three Italians are on the show.
All we need is some
right.
pizza. And we have the wine. All we need is pizza. So before we jump to the 1031 exchange, why don't you give us one more example? I think you wanted to give us one more, right, Scott?
Yeah, I did, actually. But, just touching on what you just said, we really are here to help people make more money and make good decisions. So, Mike, we were just talking at the break, and Mike said, hey, you don't have to own a lot of property. You might just own a single-family home and have a lot of debt on it. And then we could also take that situation, and maybe you can use that to buy a duplex or to buy a triplex. It can, Mike reminded me that I'm talking about some big examples, and this can really affect the everyday guy that just has one rental property or something like that. I also want to talk a little bit later about people that don't have rental property and talk about how smart it is to get into it. But this last example, this is a client who just came to me. He's got 4 single-family homes he bought in the last 3 years in an area called Blossom Valley of San Jose. And he knows that they're under-leveraged. He knows that they're not generating a lot of cash flow, but they've appreciated quite a bit. In these last 3 years, we've had great appreciation. But they're basically breaking even for him. And he knows that if he leverages those into multi-unit, that he's going to do well. Now, one of the downsides to this is that he wants to 1031 those investments. So I'm going to let Mike talk real quickly about what 1031 means, and it's a really, really important vehicle to avoid some taxes.
Speaking of 1031s, Ron Ricard just walked into the room.
See, you know what I
right
think
on
he did?
cue.
You know what he did? He waited till he heard you say that.
Yeah,
he came
really.
in from outside.
No, basically, I want to preface this with the fact that I'm not a 1031 exchange guy, so therefore I'm not certified in this, but I obviously know about them. So basically, 1031 is a tax vehicle. A lot of people, when you sell property, you pay capital gains tax on capital gains taxes on
Exactly.
But what a 1031 allows you to do is transfer that money into another property without paying capital gains tax if it's a like property.
Right.
So a lot of people are worried when they're going to sell these properties is, do I have to pay taxes on it? Well, the beautiful thing about owning an investment rental is you can leverage that and sell it and 1031 exchange it into a multifamily property. So
and defer those taxes.
And defer
is what
those
you're
taxes.
really doing.
Yeah.
And there's some guidelines that we have to work within. The reason I like this last example is there's some guidelines that we have to work within to make that transfer happen. Right. And when you sell those, this guy has these 4 single-family homes. Well, when we sell those, we have to transfer or exchange that into a new property within a given period of time.
Right. So
the challenge will be for this particular client is to how do we sell this and roll that right into something else with the market being so hot.
Yeah.
So that's the downside of the current market for what he's doing.
Right.
His 4 properties in Blossom Valley are worth, they're going to sell quickly, but do you know exactly what you'll be buying when you sell those properties?
So here's the beautiful thing about the market right now is for sellers is that you can basically, you know, in a position like that example is in, you can ask for whatever you want from the buyer that wants to close escrow on it, right? So let's say you have a rental property and you need some extra time to go find a replacement property because you have time constraints on the 1031 exchange, right? Well, what you want to do is ask the buyer for as long of an escrow close as possible, so you extend out that 45 days until the close, because that ticker doesn't start until you close escrow. So the great position that sellers are in nowadays is the fact that they can essentially demand whatever they want for escrow closing, and that way it'll buy them some more time, because you can go out and look whenever you want. It's just a matter of having to place that money when the escrow closes on your current property. So that's why the market's beneficial right now, especially for sellers that own investment properties.
You know, the beautiful part, Scott, and you illustrate this when you're meeting with clients, but the thing that I always get resonates to me when you understand property and leveraging is that you have this appreciating asset too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you could take the money from it, reinvest the money, but at the same time now you still have this appreciating asset.
That's right.
And, you know, I think most of us, it's all about diversification when it comes to the stock market and all that. But I'm telling you, I think that as crazy it is, you hear people all the time say, oh, my God, you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I think it's a mistake not only to wait. If you could buy now, buy and just get into something, number one. And number two, if you have an existing property, really talk to someone like Mike or Scott and find out, you know, what are your options, right? What are your options? It may be no options.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe an option maybe 6 months ago, maybe, or I should say 6 months from now or a year from now. But don't really lose that opportunity potentially, because you may not know what's out there.
Yep, I
It's a
agree
big
with
key.
you.
All right, we're going to have to take one more break. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. It's getting nice and loud and busy here at the Toll House Hotel. People are starting to drink wine, eat appetizers. Come on down. You could join us. We go till 6 o'clock. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate 360. Join the Real Estate 360 revolution by going to RE360radio.com.
Like
That's RE360radio.com. I'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon as we wind down the show. This is our last segment, so if you want to get your calls or questions on the air, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. We're at the Toll House Hotel, and I'm flanked here by Mike D'Ambrosio and Scott Poncetta. It's like a football lineup here. With the Intero Real Estate Services, we have about 4 minutes here left in the segment, so if you have any questions, chime in and shout. So let's take us through kind of a quick summary of what we talked about today, you guys, because it's really, really important. Again, with the objective being education and information, the focus on this show and the focus of what you and I, all of us, are passionate about. What would you want to tell the listeners right now, kind of taking this show to an end, why it's so important to really do some due diligence? And so I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I would say that, you know, one of the things we talked about when we first started the show was how important it is to get together with somebody who really knows what they're doing and is professional. We love to educate people. We don't end up doing deals with everybody we talk to, but I really enjoy walking people through the numbers, showing them what's possible to them, and then letting them make a decision. I work with smart people, but you just present all the information and let them make the decisions on their own, you know, and try and present all the positives and negatives. So that's one of the things from this that I would talk about.
Yeah, and ultimately, you know, we can't make decisions for people either, you know, and I think it's definitely providing that information. And I think one of the points we were really trying to drive home today is the fact that if you do have, you know, some sort of asset somewhere, like we've been talking about for weeks and months now on the radio, I mean, this is a great time for an asset that maybe was not much a couple years ago, but if you're really interested in looking to see if you can better your position with that asset, now is a really good time to look into that, because you can really demand anything you really want as a seller in this type of market. And so as far as, and then going into multifamily, like let's say, now you say, Mike, well, you say that about selling your home, but what about the multifamily?
Right.
Can they do the same thing to us? Well, Scott and I have been watching the market, and multifamily is increasing in inventory. And if you really know what you're doing and you really know how to put together a great offer and go into a contract with a multifamily, then there shouldn't be any issues.
Right. So a little less than 2 minutes, you guys. How could callers or anybody else get a hold of you if they want more information about this valuable feedback here?
Yeah, well, call me directly at 408-757-1007. I'm Scott Poncetta. Love to chat with you about what's possible out there in the market.
Mike?
I'll let Scott filter the calls. Say your number again.
408-757-1007. And you can go to poncettarealestate.com as well, and that's Poncetta.
And you can catch my show on Mondays, and you can get my information there too, or on the website RE360radio.com.
Yeah, is that the best place to reach you?
That's the best
Or are they
place.
going to call Scott and then Scott screens all the calls and gets them to you?
No, I'm just saying that. But Scott's really good at what he does, and he's really knowledgeable in the multifamily area, and he's a great person to talk to, as well as me. But Scott is the chief around here.
All right, we're going to have to wind down the show. Thank you again. Thank you guys for being your sponsor, and also thanks you for joining the show. Mike D'Ambrosio and Scott Poncetta with Interior Real Estate Service, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to tune in Monday through Friday from 3 to 4 with some bonus time Wednesday and Thursday from 2 to 4. Join the Real Estate 360 revolution. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate 360 on AM 1220 KDOW. For more information on today's program, visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. AM 1220 KDOW.